On the Young and the Restless, tomorrow, Monday, September 3rd, 2025, Nate and Audra struggle with their situation, and Jack can see his future more clearly. We've got the photo spoilers of what's coming up. On The Young and the Restless, Jack has vengeful thoughts on his mind, as he usually does when it comes to thinking about Victor. But this might be a little different as he realizes he's not the only one. While out with his wife, Diane, the pair discusses their son, Kyle, and the contract that Victor has over him. Jack asked Victor to rip it up, but when have we ever known TGVN to get rid of leverage against an abbot? Meanwhile, Nate heard from Claire that Audra had plotted with Victor to seduce Kyle in France. Audra has been vehemently denying it, of course, but is she ready to confess? Nate just wants the truth, and it seems that Audra is finally ready to tell it. Will it help her win back Nate? Let's see what's coming up on tomorrow's episode. Nate and Audra run into one another at Crimson Lights, and things are awkward. Can Audra explain herself to Nate so he'll understand she didn't want to lose him over her selfish plan with Victor? In hopes that telling the truth will set her free, Audra tries following Sally's advice and tells Nate exactly what she did and why she did it. Will it change Nate's mind about breaking up? Audra and Amanda haven't yet met, although they know of one another. Audra doesn't care much for Amanda's opinion. She rarely feels like she's met her match, even with someone from Nate's past. But she did just underestimate Claire, so maybe she has a reason to be concerned with someone like Amanda. At Society, Jack and Diane discuss Victor, Kyle, and Cane, and Jack sees Diane's true colors. Kyle invites Claire over for a romantic evening, and little does she know he's about to propose. But she's there to take a first step to rebuilding trust. Will proposing help, or will it push Claire further away? Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie, here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching, so let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless update for Monday, September 1st, reveals that Jack Abbott will throw Nikki Newman under the bus while Audra Charles' reunion plan flops. Let's discuss what Y&R fans can look forward to on Monday's dramatic episode. At the coffee house, Audra will try to repair her relationship with Nate Hastings, so she'll come clean about trying to split up Kyle Abbott and Claire Newman as part of her deal with Victor Newman. However, Nate will lash out over all Audra's excuses and how far she was willing to go. Audra will argue that she'd never truly betray Nate and will put on a changed woman act, but Nate will reject her before stomping off. Amanda Sinclair will witness the end of Audra and Nate's latest blow-up, so she'll fish for information from Audra. Since Audra won't be interested in spilling much of anything, Amanda will acknowledge that she's overstepped. In the park, Victoria Newman will listen to Nate trash Audra and reflect on how his eyes have been opened. Nate will be done with Audra permanently and will be grateful for Victoria's sympathetic ear. At Society, Jack will give Diane Jenkins Abbott updates on his plan to back Billy Abbott up in his quest for Chancellor. Diane will doubt that Jack will actually go through with it, considering going after Victor means hurting Nikki. Nevertheless, Jack will basically be willing to throw Nikki under the bus if it means retaliating against Victor. Diane will talk about Jack knowing how to get inside Victor's head and being less of a wild card than Billy, so she'll think Jack has to take the lead here. At the Abbott mansion, Kyle will create a romantic setup for Claire Newman, who'll be greeted with a champagne toast and Kyle's desire for forgiveness. Kyle will acknowledge that it was a mistake to hide things from Claire and hope to earn her trust back. When Claire finds out Jack and Diane encouraged Kyle to confess everything, she'll fear his own conscience wasn't his guide. Kyle will assure Claire that coming clean was the only choice. Over dinner, Claire will be willing to discuss their move-in plans again, so that'll give Kyle some hope. Unfortunately, Kyle will blow things by moving ahead with his marriage proposal despite Claire's insistence on repairing their relationship slowly. Kyle won't see the need to wait, so he'll whip out the engagement ring and propose down on one knee. That'll leave Claire looking totally floored and upset over Kyle springing this on her. The Young and the Restless spoilers for the next 2 weeks, September 1st to September 12th, reveal that Kyle Abbott will watch a horror show of his own making before Claire Newman goes wild on Audra Charles. Cane Ashby and Lily Winters will also face a mess, so here's what Y&R has in store. During the week of September 5th, Audra's attempt to win Nate Hastings back will fail. Despite Audra's attempt to be honest about all her scheming, Nate won't think it's really registering just how much she betrayed him. Nate will decide to put Audra in the rearview mirror and will lean on Victoria Newman for support. As for Kyle, he'll witness the horror of it all when Claire rejects his marriage proposal. It looks like Claire will lose her temper over Kyle's tactic, so he'll create even more tension than before. Jack Abbott may resist the urge to say, "I told you so," when Kyle comes to his dad for advice. Diane Jenkins Abbott will also offer her perspective, but the best thing Kyle can do is probably take a step back and give Claire some time. However, there could be a problem since Holden Novak may be ready to pounce on this opportunity. Claire and Holden will indeed grow closer since they're about to form a vengeful team against Audra. Later, Claire will have a meltdown during an Audra interaction, so some wild moments are in store. Speaking of wild moments, there could be some of those brewing as the Abbott-Newman feud takes center stage. There'll be some prep work for the Newman clan as they get ready to go up against Jabot with Cane's help. However, Cane has a few tricks up his sleeve. Phyllis Summers may jeopardize his plans with some bold moves she's about to make, but Cane's heart could leave him vulnerable too. Lily will corner Cane and push for a full confession since she'll still assume he's planning something big. Cane and Lily's feelings will remain powerful, but their strained relationship is a mess that's only going to get messier. Back with Victor, he'll get a night of sweet presents from the woman he loves. Nikki will deliver a romantic night to remember, so Victor will appreciate being doted on. Across town, Michael Baldwin will get a tempting offer, so we'll see if Jack might want to hire him and score some extra help against Victor. Regardless, the week of September 8-12 will bring some big developments when it comes to Victor and all the plotting he's doing against Jabot. Victor could make a move against Kyle too if his failed marriage proposal leads to a romantic split and Claire's heartbreak. That could give Victor the green light to enforce the $5 million contract and try to drive Kyle out of town. Back with Audra, she'll face more threats when it comes to Claire, Holden, and maybe even Kyle as well. Audra will think she can handle them all, but will she be underestimating her opponents? Whatever the case, Audra may throw herself into work and help Sally Spectra make the launch party the best it can be. That launch party could bring some drama, especially if Jack and Kyle publicly object to Audra being part of Abbott Communications. Victoria will grow increasingly concerned about Claire in the aftermath of all the terrible Kyle news. Could everything take a toll on Claire's mental state and leave Victoria worried she might go off the rails again? The young and the restless Adam Newman is well known as the black sheep of the Newman family. Longtime fans remember his laundry list of crimes, from gaslighting a pregnant Ashley Abbott and causing her to miscarry to kidnapping Faith Newman when she was an infant and letting her mother, Sharon, believe she was dead. Adam has always had a love-hate relationship with his father Victor, but recently, we've seen him make huge strides in proving his family loyalty. Here are 4 reasons why Adam is the most amazing Newman. On Monday's episode of The Young and the Restless, Adam tried to convince Nick that Victor's plan for a phony alliance with Cane was unwise. "We just saw Dad get shot," Adam said. "I'm just trying to stop another bullet from coming his way before it hits." He proposed that they team up and try to discourage Victor from executing his plan. The fact that Adam is so troubled by Victor's plan tells us he is genuinely concerned for the welfare of the family and their business. He even expressed concern that Cane wants to take over Chancellor Industries, which Nikki runs, even though she and Adam have always hated each other. It's also been wonderful that Nick and Adam, who used to be rivals for Sharon's love, have buried the hatchet and have managed to work well together. For the most part, it's been pretty smooth sailing for the Newman brothers. For years on The Young and the Restless, Adam and Victoria have never seen eye to eye. We barely saw them share a scene without trading snarky remarks. But throughout Cole's illness and death, Adam was a supportive brother. When Cole was in the hospital, Adam told her he would keep Cole in his thoughts. She was grateful that Adam stayed in Genoa City to run the business, and she said Victor would be happy with his performance. Victoria and Adam commiserated over the fact that they couldn't get in touch with the family in Nice, France. Adam told Victoria that Dumas purchased property in Genoa City, including the athletic club and some divisions of Chancellor Industries. The fact that Adam shared that information with her showed her she could trust him. After Cole died, Victoria told Adam it helped to know she at least had one brother there with her. These are all baby steps in the right direction for their sibling relationship, and hopefully, they will become even closer in time. Adam is known for taking bold, dramatic actions on the young and the restless, but what he did in July to help his family was one of the most memorable. After he learned Dumas bought real estate all over Genoa City, Adam made a spur-of-the-moment decision to fly to Nice to warn his family. He hiked across a mountain to get there. He believed it was necessary, since he had no way to reach them by phone. The family was shocked, but grateful that Adam came. Even Nikki realized his spontaneous and difficult journey cemented his loyalty to the family. As he was leaving, she thanked him for all he did. Nikki has even recently admitted that Adam is doing a good job running Newman Media, the company she used to run. It's great to see the writers gift us these unexpected scenes where Nikki and Victoria finally acknowledge Adam's worth. Before Adam and Chelsea reunited as a couple, they put their differences aside and came together for their son Connor's sake when he was diagnosed with OCD. In the past, Adam wasn't exactly known for being Father of the Year, but he knew it wasn't easy for a child Connor's age to cope with such a difficult problem. He and Chelsea found the right specialist for Connor, got him set up with an appropriate treatment plan, and video chatted with him regularly. They did everything they could to make sure Connor knew they were there for him, loved him, and supported him every step of the way. The young and the restless star Tristan Rogers graced soap opera audiences with his performances for nearly 45 years. Whether he was on Y&R as Colin Atkinson or on General Hospital as Robert Scorpio, the charismatic star infused his roles with charm, humor, and wisdom. Soap Central is posthumously awarding Rogers with our Performer of the Week honors for his last Y&R appearance. It was a bit of a surprise when The Young and the Restless announced that Rogers would be making a last appearance on the show earlier this week. Was it going to be a new performance, or were viewers going to be treated to a flashback? It turned out to be the former. Earlier this summer, Cane revealed that he'd been with his dad in his final days. Rogers, despite being ill, made it to the studio so that he could play out Colin's final scenes. "Don't suppose you could put a drop of scotch in that," Colin quipped, as Cane handed his dad a glass of water. While his voice was weak, we could still hear Colin's wry sense of humor. "Worth a shot," he mused, after Cane said that wouldn't be happening. Cane attempted to keep his father up on the latest news in the world of sports and politics from his cell phone, but Colin had something far more serious to discuss: his final wishes. "Cane, no more," Colin said. "No more time." Cane attempted to be upbeat, telling his dad they were paying doctors big money to make sure they had more time together, but Colin needed to get out some important words to his son. "I'm tired," Colin revealed. "I'm too tired." The former conman told his son, who had amassed quite a fortune over the last several years, that there was more to life than money. "You need someone to lean on, family," Colin urged. When Cane said he wasn't ready, Colin quipped, "You're not ready for much." Colin acknowledged that Cane's business persona of Aristotle Dumas had served a valuable purpose, but now was the time to retire him. "Aristotle Dumas is a name, not a person," Colin pointed out. "Cane Ashby is the man who really matters." The Young and the Restless. The Young and the Restless taped these scenes in black and white, emphasizing that they had occurred in the past. The noir theme added to the seriousness of the episode. Showing that Jill's feelings were uppermost in his mind, Colin urged his son not to tell Jill how much he loved her. "It'll just make it that much harder when I'm gone," Colin said, adding, "What a woman." Oh, with each breath, Colin wanted to make sure that Cane would do the right thing and focus on what's truly important in life. He used wry humor, hoping it would land. "So what's your plan?" he rhetorically asked his son. "Make it up to Lily, Christelle Khalil in 50 years when it's your turn to go?" Colin used his last breaths to tell Cane to bury Dumas, noting the alias handle was no longer useful for what Cane needed in life, and that was to reconcile with his family. Roger's final appearance will be remembered because of the fondness viewers have for the actor, just as they recall Gene Cooper's Catherine Chancellor saying goodnight to Jill as she walked up her mansion's staircase in her last scene. There's another reason this performance won't be forgotten. Colin's final words, spoken by a beloved actor at the end of his life, will resonate with both Cane and the viewers, not just because they were Roger's last ones on The Young and the Restless, but also because of the sentiment behind them, which is to focus on what's truly important in life. Rest in peace, Tristan Rogers. On The Young and the Restless, Tracy Abbott is Genoa City's resident sweetheart. She is arguably the kindest, most good-natured character in the entire show. She's also what you might call the heart and soul of the Abbott family. Whenever the Abbotts fight over one issue or another, Tracy comes to the rescue and acts as the peacemaker. She loves her family and is always a supportive sister to Jack, Ashley, and Billy. She always uses reason and good judgment to help them solve their disputes. Here's why Tracy needs a great storyline the next time she visits Genoa City. The last time Tracy had her own storyline on The Young and the Restless, she was in love with Alan Laurent, or who she thought was Alan. Unfortunately, he turned out to be Alan's psychopathic twin brother, Martin, who kidnapped Sharon and Phyllis and kept them prisoners in an abandoned mental facility. He tortured them by playing twisted mind games with them. Fans were thrilled when they thought it really was Alan that Tracy was dating. Alan was a decent man and a friend of Ashley's, and he played an important role in getting Ashley the psychiatric care she needed to treat her dissociative identity disorder. If Tracy's boyfriend really had been Alan, it would have been wonderful, since she hasn't had a love story in years. The Abbott family was ecstatic that Tracy had found love again. So it was heartbreaking when everyone learned that the man she loved all those months was really Martin. It wasn't only heartbreaking and a total letdown for Tracy. It was upsetting for her fans as well. Let's face it, Tracy deserves a much better storyline than to be unknowingly in love with a dangerous psychopath. Until Tracy's storyline with Martin, we mainly saw her character being utilized as a support system for her family. Her storyline with Cane didn't really amount to anything. Whenever she visits Genoa City, we usually see her in the Abbott living room, trying to fix yet another family problem. We saw her in other settings when she was dating Martin and when she was in France, helping Ashley. But now that Martin is in prison, will we see Tracy's scenes restricted to the Abbott mansion again? It would be a refreshing change if the writers would put Tracy in other characters' orbits, in a storyline that doesn't involve the Abbott family. We don't get to see many non-Abbotts interact with her. It would be great to see that, as most of the other characters on The Young and the Restless probably like and respect her. In soaps, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a character who's done something shady, dishonest, secretive, or violent. But Tracy doesn't fall into that category. Some fans may even think she's honest to a fault and too nice. She's a rare breed indeed. Tracy and Lauren have a bitter history on The Young and the Restless, since they were both involved with Brad Carlton. But several years ago, Lauren apologized to Tracy for the horrible way she had treated her, and Tracy gratefully embraced her. Tracy has never been the kind of person who holds a grudge. It would be wonderful if Tracy and Lauren could actually develop a friendship. Then, we could get scenes of them having lunch or drinks together at Society or the GCAC. Maybe we could even get scenes of Tracy with Lauren and Michael. Tracy would probably have a fun time with both of them. In any event, Tracy deserves a storyline that is worthy of her, whether it's a love story, a friendship story, or even a story where she is somehow caught in the middle of all the business intrigue we've been seeing lately involving Cane, Victor, and all the other business people on Y&R. Beth Maitland is such a delightful actress. Her beautiful character, Tracy, deserves a story where we can truly see her shine. For the Friday, August 29th episode of The Young and the Restless, spoiler photos focus on Cane and Phyllis with another conversation on Cane's train. These two have been spending a lot of time together. He recently confided in her, and she gave him the best advice she could. But, ultimately, he made a decision that blindsided her. Gear up for another Phyllis and Cane conversation on a train. After much soul-searching, in which he reflected on some of the final moments he had with his dad, And after making a heartfelt video for his kids, Maddie and Charlie, Cane decided that he would shelve his plans to take over Genoa City's corporations, Newman, Jabot, and Chancellor. He told Phyllis as much via a phone call. On Friday, look for the tech expert to head back to Cane's train to presumably have it out with the billionaire. She did a deep dive into AI and everything. She believes in Cane, so she could try to talk him into resuming his original plans. In the first image, things look intense between the two. Regardless, Cane's Arabesque is a huge conglomerate, right? Maybe there's something else Phyllis could do that would be valuable to Cane. Hitching her wagon to Cane has given Phyllis a sense of purpose, and there's no way she wants to lose that now. Will she succeed in talking Cane into reversing his latest decision? The Young and the Restless preview video for the week of September 5 reveals that Audra Charles will finally confess to Nate Hastings, while Victor Newman gets a big surprise. Y&R's weekly promo kicks off with Kyle Abbott presenting the engagement ring he selected for Claire Newman, who looks totally caught off guard. Kyle's dinner with Claire will take a stunning turn when he asks her to marry him and uses this as a way to prove his commitment. Based on Claire's expression, she won't react well and might accuse Kyle of trying to manipulate her. Claire may think Kyle's not understanding that they have real issues to work through here. Rushing into an engagement isn't going to fix those issues, so Claire may reject the proposal. Of course, there's the potential for Kyle to turn things around if he can convince Claire this is truly about their love. Kyle will certainly work to sell this marriage idea and convince Claire she's his future, so we'll see if he can salvage his plan. Over with Nate. He'll once again push Audra for the real story. Nate will insist the truth is all he's asking for, so Audra will finally admit everything she's been denying. I did it. I agreed to Victor's quid pro quo. I went after Kyle so I could get what I want, an emotional Audra says in the weekly preview video. Audra will come clean at last, so we'll see how Nate reacts to her admission of guilt. Part of Nate will be relieved over Audra's honesty, but another part of him will be frustrated since it took her so long to tell the truth. Audra also tried to make Nate doubt his gut feeling, so forgiving her won't be an easy task. Nevertheless, Audra may plead for another chance and wonder if maybe they could still have a future together. Next, Nikki Newman will turn the tables on Victor in the best possible way. Since Victor is always surprising Nikki and lavishing her with gifts, she'll decide to surprise and spoil Victor instead. Genoa City, WI. The storied rivalry between Jack Abbott and Victor Newman has long been the defining conflict of Genoa City, a decades-long chess match of corporate takeovers and personal betrayals. But the latest chapter has escalated their feud into uncharted and dangerous territory, where the prize is no longer a company, but the very soul of the Abbott family. With his son, Kyle Abbott, ensnared in a manipulative trap, a transformed Jack Abbott is promising a war with no rules and no surrender. The catalyst for this renewed conflict is a draconian contract Victor has forced upon Kyle, disguised as a prenuptial agreement to protect his granddaughter, Claire Newman. The terms are brutal. If Kyle betrays Claire, he faces financial ruin, professional exile, and banishment from the city. However, this document is less about protection and more about control. Victor orchestrated the entire scenario, using the ambitious Audra Charles to entrap Kyle in a compromising situation abroad, thereby creating the justification for the contract himself. For Jack, this manipulation is a declaration of war against his family. The public humiliation he suffered at Victor's hands has extinguished his trademark pragmatism, replacing it with an incandescent rage. Jack's wife, Diane Jenkins Abbott, has pleaded with him to let it go, fearing the all-consuming vendetta that has nearly destroyed him in the past. But her pleas fall on deaf ears. Jack sees this not as a business dispute, but as a primal fight to save his son from being a pawn in Victor's cruel game. He views the contract as an assault on the Abbott legacy, stripping Kyle of his agency and painting him as guilty before he has a chance to prove himself. Complicating matters further is Kyle's own deception. He has confessed to Claire that his involvement with Audra amounted to nothing more than a single kiss, a half-truth that barely conceals a far more compromising reality. Claire, sharp and unwilling to be played for a fool, already suspects there is more to the story. Her quiet investigation threatens to unravel Kyle's lie, which would not only destroy his relationship, but also hand Victor the ultimate victory. Kyle is trapped. Telling the truth means ruin, but continuing the lie leaves him perpetually under Victor's thumb. This modern conflict is an echo of a feud cemented in blood and legacy. Their rivalry has seen Victor marry Jack's sister, Ashley, and Jack retaliate by marrying Victor's great love, Nikki. Kyle's very existence is a product of this war, conceived after Diane Jenkins famously tried to steal Victor's sperm, only to end up with Jack's by a twist of fate. Victor revels in the chaos, believing he holds all the cards. But he may have underestimated the depth of a father's fury. Jack Abbott is no longer calculating. He is unhinged. This isn't about winning. It's about freeing his son, no matter the cost. As history has shown, when these two titans clash without restraint, Genoa City becomes the battlefield. And this time, the fire in Jack's eyes suggests he's willing to burn everything down to finally break Victor's stranglehold. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that the CBS soap is adding Tamara Braun in the new role of Sienna Bacall. So let's talk about when this Days of Our Lives and General Hospital alum will make her debut. According to People, Braun will start filming during the week of September 5th, so her first air date will happen a bit later this fall. When Braun appears in Genoa City, she'll be playing an intriguing woman named Sienna Bacall. Sienna will have several personal connections on canvas, so look for her to be linked to multiple characters. It'll be interesting to see who Sienna's first love interest turns out to be, and which storylines she might shake up. Tamara Braun has certainly made a name for herself in the soap world over the years. Most recently, Braun was seen portraying Ava Vitale on Duel, where she made her last appearance back in April. Braun also had an earlier run on Days as Taylor Walker. GH fans will recognize Braun as the former Carly Corinthos, and from her run as Dr. Kim Nero. Of course, longtime soap fans may remember Braun from her days of playing Reese Williams on All My Children. YNR managed to snatch up Billy Flynn to play a Kane Ashby recast earlier this year. Days also lured Connor Floyd to portray a Chad DiMera recast, so he'll make his first Days appearance in April 2026. Now Braun is the latest daytime drama star to find a new soap home, so she'll be joining fellow Days alum Flynn. Considering the action in GC mostly revolves around Kane lately, there's a good chance Sienna Bacall will have some sort of history with him. Whatever the case, it'll be fun to see Braun tackle this new character and make a splash in Genoa City. Are you looking forward to Tamara Braun's YNR debut? The Young and the Restless spoilers say Sienna will bring some excitement to town, so stick with us for news related to her character. CDL will have other sizzling Young and the Restless spoilers, news and updates, so make us your one-stop source. Genoa City. What was meant to be the beginning of a beautiful new chapter for Kyle Abbott has instead ignited a war within his own family, culminating in a shocking act of violence that has shattered the fragile peace of the Abbott dynasty. Spoilers reveal that Kyle's dream of a future with Claire Grace has been violently sabotaged by the one person he should have been able to trust, his mother, Diane Jenkins. Kyle had it all planned, a romantic, secluded proposal at the Abbott estate, complete with a ring that symbolized his profound love for Claire, a woman he saw as a beacon of hope after the bitter collapse of his marriage to Summer. But as Kyle prepared to pledge his future, Diane was plotting to destroy it. Viewing Claire as a damaged and unworthy threat to the Abbott legacy, Diane took matters into her own ruthless hands. In a calculated move, Diane cornered Claire in Chancellor Park. Her initial sweetness quickly curdled into venom as she delivered an ice-cold warning. Turn down Kyle's proposal. "You'll never be an Abbott," Diane seethed, her words laced with contempt. When a stunned Claire tried to defend her love for Kyle, Diane responded not with words, but with a shocking slap across the face, an act of calculated cruelty meant to put Claire in her place. But Diane made one catastrophic miscalculation. She wasn't alone. From a distance, a horrified Kyle witnessed the entire ugly confrontation. The sound of his mother's hand striking the woman he loves was like a gunshot to his soul, and something inside him snapped. In a blind rage, Kyle charged forward, his voice a roar of fury as he screamed his mother's name. In a shocking reversal of violence, he shoved Diane, sending her stumbling to the ground. The scene that followed was pure emotional devastation. "Why would you do this to her?" Kyle yelled, his heart breaking as he stood between the two women. He turned on his mother, accusing her of trying to sabotage his happiness out of a twisted need for control. For once, the master manipulator Diane Jenkins was left speechless, the horror of her actions and her son's reaction etched on her face. Rejecting his mother's tearful, half-formed apologies, Kyle made his choice. In a quiet, steely voice, he told Diane that if she couldn't respect Claire, she didn't respect him. He then took Claire's hand and walked away from the wreckage of their family. That night, Kyle packed a bag and left the Abbott mansion with Claire, seeking refuge from the toxic expectations of his last name. The Abbott estate has fallen into a chilling silence. Diane is left alone with the consequences of her actions, clutching a photo of her son and realizing the slap meant to exile Claire has instead exiled Kyle. The lines have been drawn, and this family is fractured, perhaps irreparably. The question now is not if Kyle will forgive his mother, but if the Abbott dynasty can ever recover from a wound this deep. Young and the Restless sees Claire Grace Newman heartbroken this week when Kyle Abbott finally spills the secret he's been keeping. But Claire's anguish over what he did leads Kyle to a strange conclusion. He thinks proposing marriage is what he needs to do now. We're going to talk about Claire's reaction when Kyle proposes. He just told his parents it's the best thing to do, but a Claire and Kyle wedding could be absolutely disastrous. This week, if you've not seen it yet, Claire again asked Kyle, "Please tell me if there's anything at all you've not revealed about that time in France with Audra Charles." We know Claire is quite happy that Nate Hastings dumped Audra, but she's still suspicious of her own boyfriend. To his credit, Kyle rolls the dice. He takes a risk and decides to be honest, but like 88% honest, not 100%. He's going to tell Claire, yes, okay, he kissed Audra while trying to expose her scheme. Even worse, Kyle reveals the kiss happened in his sleeping car on the train. They were alone there. But what he doesn't tell Claire is that he was only dressed in a towel, and he climbed on top of Audra in the bed. They were playing a serious game of tonsil hockey before it stopped. Kyle makes it sound way more innocent than it was, but it was at least somewhat the truth. Claire tells Kyle that Audra was actually more honest with her than he was, because Audra did tell Claire they kissed in France, and he was denying it. The core issue is Jordan Howard, Claire's crazy great-aunt, lied to Claire her entire life and gaslit and misled her. So, honesty is super important to Claire, and now she's completely beside herself. It's not so much that Kyle kissed Audra, it was the lying. Kyle's excuse was that Claire had just lost her dad, Cole Howard. So, Kyle didn't know how to tell the truth about the kiss without making Claire's grief worse. Plus, Kyle was afraid of hurting and disappointing her. When Kyle finally comes clean and begs Claire to tell him things are okay, she's not okay, and she walks out on Kyle. Later, Claire tells her mom, Victoria Newman, and her grandma, Nikki Newman, about Kyle kissing Audra in France. They think Kyle made a huge mistake, but they also think he truly loves Claire. Victoria says it's totally up to Claire to decide if she should forgive Kyle. It's not up to them. Her mom and grandma also know that Kyle was the subject of a wicked plot cooked up by Victor Newman and Audra. He was being targeted and put in very bad positions. Bottom line, Claire needs time. She's not going to forgive him at the moment. Luckily for Kyle, Claire has not written him off completely. So, in time, I do think Claire could forgive him. But I don't know if he can be patient because, meanwhile, Kyle is telling his parents, Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins, that he came clean. He told Claire the truth, but he might have blown up their relationship. It sounds like Kyle does not want to give Claire time to think about it for too long. Kyle wants to make a grand gesture to win her back and prove his love. He tells his parents the only way to prove himself to Claire is to ask her to marry him. Kyle wants to show Claire just how committed he is to her. It could be late this week, probably into next week, that we'll get Kyle proposing to Claire. I'm sure she's not going to see it coming. As hurt as Claire is, If Kyle's proposal is very heartfelt, and we do know that little Harrison Locke is back soon, Kyle might involve the kid in the proposal on Young and the Restless, and that might convince Claire that his love is indeed real. Of course, Victor will lose his mind if Kyle proposes and Claire says yes. As with any soap opera wedding, there's always the chance that a wedding would go wildly off the rails. I think that's especially true in the case of Claire and Kyle. I suspect Claire and Kyle, big day, would end in chaos potentially. Here's what we could see that would blow up this potential wedding. Obviously, Victor will not be happy about any new Newman and Abbott wedding, even though he gave Claire and Kyle his blessing. First of all, he was lying. Second of all, that does not apply to any engagement. Victor was still hoping that Kyle would lose Claire and that it would fall apart before it got more serious. Jack was just pressuring Victor this week to tear up that contract, but he said no. That's a red flag. If you remember, Kyle signed a document saying he would leave town and pay Victor $5 million if he broke Claire's heart. So, Victor Newman could whip that contract out at the speak now or forever hold your peace part of the wedding and blather on about Kyle betraying Claire with Audra. He could make a whole big scene, and Victor might say, "Pay up, pack your bags, buddy. Forget it. You're not marrying my granddaughter." Next, of course, there's Audra, who absolutely could and would sabotage Kyle and Claire's wedding. Audra hates Kyle, and now she also hates Claire. She blames Claire for the breakup with Nate, even though, let's be real, Audra did that all on her own. Ruining Kyle and Claire's big day would give Audra a lot of pleasure. No way will she stand by while Kyle gets his happily ever after with the woman he loves now that Audra has lost everything. I also think Holden Novak could show up and intervene. Audra might even provoke Holden to interrupt. She might get in his head about Claire. If Audra Charles realizes how smitten Holden is with Claire, she might tell him he's got to stop the wedding or he'll miss his chance. Audra could tell Holden that breaking up the wedding would save Claire from Kyle because he's a cheater and is just going to hurt her again. Plus, Holden really likes Claire, so he might stop the wedding or try to. We also have to mention Claire herself might have second thoughts. Kyle's lie about the kiss might eat at her. As much as Claire loves him, she may not be able to trust Kyle again. So, Claire might interrupt her own wedding and say, "I'm sorry, I can't do this," and do the runaway bride thing. And the last thing, Cane Ashby could interrupt the wedding to ruin their big day because Victor is blackmailing him. Right now, Victor has documents that show Cane's initial money that seeded Arabesque came from Colin Atkinson's last con, where he talked the lady who owned the chateau into leaving everything in the will. So, Victor may tell Cane he's got to find some way to blow up Claire and Kyle's wedding, or he'll reveal the dirty info he's got. So, we'll see if Claire says yes when Kyle proposes. Even if Claire says yes, there are so many ways their nuptials could go off the rails. I just don't see her getting married to Kyle going off without a hitch. My top candidates for wedding disruption are Audra and Victor. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Tuesday, September 2nd, reveal that Kyle Abbott will crash and burn with Claire Newman, while Cane Ashby plays Victor Newman's game, at least for now. At the Abbott mansion, Kyle will hope for good news as he awaits Claire's answer to his marriage proposal. Unfortunately, Claire won't give Kyle the one he was expecting. Y&R spoilers say Claire's response will throw Kyle for a loop, so all signs point to her rejecting his ring and refusing to be his wife. Claire may have a furious reaction, considering she just got through telling Kyle she wanted to take things slowly and move one step at a time. Instead, Kyle is jumping right to planning a wedding, so it's easy to see why his plan will end up crashing and burning. Over with Victor, he'll remind Cane of the leverage he's holding over him. Victor will back Cane into another corner as they strategize and plot Jabot's takedown. Cane already admitted he didn't have much of a choice when it came to teaming up. On Tuesday's show, Cane will apparently strike a more official deal as he plays Victor's game for the time being. Of course, Cane will secretly be working on a new game of his own. Victor won't know Cane is continuing his Genoa City domination scheme, so he'll be unaware of the bold moves that Cane's still planning to make. Meanwhile, Amanda Sinclair will make a gutsy move for Phyllis Summers' sake. Although some tension erupted between Phyllis and Amanda in Nice, Phyllis recently pushed her to meet for drinks and seems eager to get their bond back. Amanda still considers Phyllis a friend, even if Phyllis pushes her buttons and tests her limits sometimes. That's why Amanda will go out on a limb for Phyllis somehow on Tuesday's Y&R episode, so maybe she'll spill a secret. Cane told Phyllis that he was calling off his takeover plans and refused to commit when she pitched the idea of doing his dirty work. Since Phyllis is really working herself into a tizzy over all this, Amanda may come clean about Cane's true agenda. Cane wants Phyllis and Billy Abbott to spread the word about him bailing on his goals, which will keep the attention off him. That'll give Cane a chance to plot privately and make some moves that no one will expect down the road. Perhaps Amanda will give Phyllis updates on the truth and assure her that the plan is still moving forward.